Howdy, I'm Robert McKay. Before I forget, let me mention, since I'll be uploading this as soon as I'm done recording it, that when I started watching my subscriptions on this channel, I don't know about anybody else, I subscribe to other whiskey channels. But when I came to the channel and looked at it, I am up to 60 subscribers. Small potatoes, I know. There are channels out there which are small at a few hundred, but I've never had more. There is a science fiction story by Larry Niven. I don't remember the title of it. It's one of his Draco Tavern stories, in which he speaks of the church, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it. I can't say it right when I'm looking at it on the page. But he talks about the Sithra Empire. This is an alien empire. And he says it was only several million planets or something like that, and then he adds, but it had never been bigger. This channel is now at only 60 subscribers, but it's never been bigger. As you will have noticed if you looked at the title, this is a Whisky Basics video. I'm not going to bother explaining why or what I'm doing. I'll just get right into it, and if you want to see the whys and wherefores, please go look at the preceding videos. That wasn't supposed to be a shameless plug. It turned into one. And by the way, while I'm shamelessly plugging, please subscribe, please like, please share, all the things that some channels do every single video. I don't. Before we do anything else, let's pour us some whiskey. What's the point of a whiskey channel if I'm not drinking whiskey? Now, what whiskey am I drinking? This is Green River Full Proof. And full proof theoretically means 125 proof, that being the maximum proof bourbon can go into the barrel. In this case, it's 117.9 proof. I think that's more of a barrel proof than a full proof, but I'm not going to quarrel with the label because I like the whiskey. If you demand strict and complete and total accuracy in whiskey labels, you're going to find whiskey very disappointing. And I'm not sure that's exactly the way to put it, because there are a lot of terms which have no official definition. Foolproof, barrel proof, small batch. That small batch especially galls me, because you can have a distillery whose standard batch is 1,000 barrels and another distillery whose standard batch is 100 barrels. They both say small batch on their whiskey. Well, small batch for the first distillery is 100 barrels. A small batch for the second distillery is 10 barrels. It has no actual meaning. So, don't buy whiskey based on the label. Buy whiskey. Obviously, you want to experiment, and I have a video coming up which will talk about that. But buy whiskey by and large because you like it, and never mind the label. So, Green River Full Proof. It is a bourbon whiskey. It is a straight bourbon whiskey. In fact, let me check. It is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. a video or two ago, I did one on how to read a whiskey label. You can go back and watch that to find out what all this means. Meanwhile, honey. A lot of the whiskeys I like give me honey. And the manager of the Kelly Liquors and the Mountain Run shooting center, the Mountain Run shopping center where Eubank and Juan Tabo meet. They're both north and south roads, but they meet. This is Albuquerque. If you try to see where it makes sense, you will never find it. But he and I seem to have the same palate. I was talking with him about that earlier today when I bought a bottle of Green River wheated bourbon. It'll appear on a video someday. And so it seems like everything he gets, I get, and vice versa. But he's given me 5 recommendations, all 5 good. Total Wine has given me 4 recommendations, 1 good. But tonight, the subject of the video, the question and answer, is what are whiskey expressions? And to answer that, I'm going to move the Green River to the side and bring out, you know the shape of the bottle maybe. If you're a newbie to whiskey and you don't know, don't worry. You're beginning where we all began. I didn't used to know. This is Knob Creek. This specifically it's single barrel select, which means it's one barrel which somebody personally picked. It is, they say, I don't know how much you can read this, but they say it's Kelly's Liquor. The name of the chain, it's a New Mexico chain. As far as I know, they're only in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. The name of the chain is Kelly Liquors. This is one expression of Knob Creek bourbon. Man, I love this Green River. It's weird having the bottle over here I'm drinking out of and this one here, but for various reasons, this is the easiest way for me to do this. Woo, that's good. I never was a huge Ric Flair fan, but back in the 70s and 80s, when he was in his prime, woo! I'm not even going to try to do it as loud as he did. There was another nature boy before Ric Flair, and I can't recall who it was. And these days, Ric Flair is ancient history in pro wrestling. The Undertaker is history, old history in pro wrestling. But expressions. Knob Creek is a whole line of bourbon. Comes from Jim Beam. And there's Knob Creek 9-year. That's the basic, the entry level Knob Creek. There's the 12-year. There's the 18-year. They've recently come out with a 21-year. They have these single barrels, and then they have, if I remember right, they call it Private Reserve or something. I've not had any of that. This particular bottle, as I've mentioned, is a store pick. And I'm going to have a video, if I remember correctly, that discusses what a store pick and various other things are. But all these different bottles are expressions of Knob Creek. The 9-year is one expression. 12-year is another expression. 18-year is another expression. 21-year is another expression. This is another expression. There's Lafroig, a peated Scotch whiskey from the island of Islay. You spell it Islay, you pronounce it Islay. Or the Scots might call it something remotely resembling Islay. I have Scottish ancestors. Never been to Scotland. Only met a few Scots. The couple have said I do a tolerable imitation of a Scottish accent, nowhere near really good. You have the Green River. Now, a wheated bourbon and what this is, which is a traditional bourbon using rye, don't really, they're separate types of bourbon. So you can't say they're different expressions. But say you've got your traditional bourbon, it's got this proof, that would be different expressions. Or take Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark was the first bourbon I ever tasted where I took a sniff and went, wow. And I really did, literally, out loud. It was involuntary. And I remember that. And one of the reasons I remember it is I've come to, after a little while, can I tangle my tongue in my teeth? I'm trying to omit the silliness, but when I can't talk, it kind of calls for it. Maker's Mark, as I say, it was my first favorite bourbon. But over time, I've come to not like it so much. It has this bright, metallic vanilla note, both in the regular and in the 46, which turns me off. And because of that, I've not tried any of their other expressions. But all their bourbon is one mash bill. They have their regular. They have their 46, which is the 46th stave profile they tried in that particular line of experimentation. They've got their Cellarades. They've got various ones where they do different things. And they've had to be creative to come up with different expressions, because Maker's Mark is one of the few, I think the only major distillery that rotates its barrels through the rickhouse to ensure consistency in aging, which means there's not a lot of variation between barrels. Old Forester has different expressions. There's an 81 proof, which I've never tried, probably never will. Then there's the 100 proof, which really is their basic bourbon. Then they've got the 1910, the 1920, they've got an 1897, they've got what they call the Statesman. I think there are a couple more. They've got their birthday bourbon. And all those are different expressions of Old Forester. It's all the same mash bill, just different aging, different conditions, different ages. And so now I hope you're getting the point. You're understanding what we mean when we say an expression of a particular whiskey. If I haven't been clear enough, by all means, let me know. I don't get a ton of comments. One of these days, maybe I'll reach a critical mass of membership in, 40, 50, 90, 200 years, to where each video I produce, I'm not sure that, I'm using produce in the sense of make, not in the sense of being a producer. I am about as Hollywood as an axe between the eyes. If you was to put me down in the middle of Hollywood, I would depart rapidly in several directions. I stole that line from Raymond Chandler, from Philip Marlowe, who was Raymond Chandler's fictional detective. It's in The Long Goodbye, and he says something like, he's thinking of Terry Lennox, who, if I remember correctly, understand, all this is from memory of a book that I've read several times, but I don't have a perfect memory. If I remember correctly, this is during the period where Philip thinks Terry Lennox is dead, and he says, if I ever saw, again, I'm not repeating it verbatim, I can't, something like, if I ever saw a character in a Rolls-Royce Silver, I would depart rapidly in several directions. But we're at 15 minutes. I want to wrap the video up. I've been making them longer than I want to lately. Bring back the